The tropical storm that has swept across the Caribbean and the USA was downgraded from hurricane status before it hit New York and is generally considered to have been less devastating than expected. However, Irene has still killed more than 20 people, and the bill for clearing up the damage could run into the billions. Joining me on the line to discuss what the economic impacts of natural disasters can be is Professor Neumayer from the London School of Economics, who has written extensively on the subject. Thanks very much for joining me, Professor. What will the direct and indirect economic impacts be of this storm for the USA?
Well, the direct economic impact are going to be damages immediately by the immediately affected regions. The long-term impact of a storm like this is going to be negligible, to tell you the truth. It's not going to make much of a difference to the long-term growth rate of the United States economy. Even Hurricane Katrina, which was the second biggest disaster in the history of mankind, didn't really impact on the U.S. economy, nowhere near as much as the financial crisis did.
What determines whether a disaster will leave bigger macroeconomic problems? Is it just the size of the disaster?
Well, I don't think any single disaster is likely to have any long-term consequence unless it hits a very small country, such that the share of the loss relative to GDP is just gigantic. A large country like the United States won't be. The quake in Japan is a different story. It's bigger still. It's going to be the biggest disaster in the history of mankind. And of course, it sort of captures Japan at a very bad moment of sort of economic political crisis. So I think as a reinforcer, a single very, very big disaster can have a lasting impact, not so much because of its direct economic damage. As big as it is, speculations are around $300 billion. That's bad enough, but more because of its sort of lingering knock-on effects on the whole sort of political, economic confidence within Japan.
There is talk today that the economic impacts of disasters aren't always negative. The storm could provide a stimulus to the struggling construction sector in the USA, for example. Do you think this is significant?
It's a bit like saying, you should almost consciously and deliberately destroy part of your capital stock because that's good for your long-term growth. Well, if that was true, then, we should engineer sort of man-made disasters. Shouldn't wait for natural disasters to do that job. I find that very doubtful. Short term, yes. For certain sectors, yes. Can it be beneficial for the larger economy in the long run? I don't think so.
Finally, some economies fare better than others when dealing with natural disasters. Is it simply a case of the poorer developed countries suffer worst economically?
Well, one of the things that comes out of our current research is that those countries which frequently experience large-scale disasters tend to be better prepared. So, ironically, those that are constantly battered with disasters, for any given disaster hitting them at any point of time, the expected damage is, so to speak, lower. Simply because these are countries that have experience, they know it's a problem, they will be better prepared, and there's better investment in sort of disaster damage mitigation policies.
Many thanks for that insight, Professor. Don't forget there'll be plenty more to keep you updated this week on Dukascopy TV. Goodbye.